I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome Scott Mahardy to our board and look forward to working with Scott.
Thank you.
And with that, we will go to the roll call. So,
Mr. Arcuri?
Here.
Mr. Boba?
Here.
Mr. Grodzki?
Here.
Mr. Coyne?
Present.
Mr. D'Elia?
here.
Mark Ford?
Present.
Mitch Ford?
Here.
Mr. Mahardy?
Here.
Mr. Mutolo?
Here.
Ms. Sesney?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
And Mr. Zavaya?
Here.
Okay, wow.
Thank you. You have in your packet the draft minutes for the January 21 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
There's a second.
Okay.
Any corrections, deletions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'll abstain.
And one abstention. You didn't watch us on TV? I do all the time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Paul sends me the tapes. The next item on our agenda is a resolution of some kind regarding the establishment of water rates, fees, and charges effective April 1, 2014. We did have an extensive discussion regarding this in January. Everybody received Bruce's views on this, which was one side of things, and the other side being supporting the 2.9%. Someone care to make a motion to see where we're at on this thing?
Make a motion that we go with the 2.9% increase.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Do we need any further discussion before we find out where we stand on a vote? Yes, Bruce?
Do we want to just move this, and I would just move an amendment, and then if the amendment passes, or replace it. If the amendment fails, then we vote on the original. Is that how we should do this?
Well, the way we're gonna do this is, there's a motion on the table that's been seconded for a 2.9% rate increase. So what we're gonna do is take a vote on that, unless you want further discussion on top of what we did 2 months ago, and see where this vote comes out, and then we'll see if we have to worry about amendments or anything else.
I just have one comment. It's not a discussion actually, but of course I haven't been here for a while. But I just wondered, I understand Bruce's where he's coming from, but I just wondered how the vote was passed at 2.9% for the budget, and now we're deciding on, whether or not to go with that. And
We
instead
passed
to go-
that budget, Betty, to meet our statutory obligation of passing the budget, with the understanding that everybody was not in favor of the 2.9% rate
I
increase
see.
within the budget. But we did have a statutory timeframe that we were facing, and so we went forward with passing that budget.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I think the only thing I'd like to add is that it was really critical that you do the 2.9 because we need to meet the bond covenants. And without getting that increase, we could jeopardize hitting a bond covenant on the debt service side. And that was something that was discussed. I think it was the major issue at the last meeting.
I'm not sure if I think the budget has sufficient revenue for the bond covenant, but the controller would have to explain that. My argument was that there was sufficient dollars in an existing bond issue that we haven't fully expended, whose purposes would allow us to take the one-time charge out of the existing budget, reduce the amount of money needed for the budget this year, and therefore allow us to reduce the rate. I don't think that would have affected the covenant, since we could take, at minimum, the equivalent of the 1%, 0.9% rate increase and put it on the existing bond. This was the suggestion that the director made as one way of doing that if the board wanted to do that, and it wouldn't have affected the budget. I still believe that we could keep a 2% rate increase, transfer the one-time expense in the budget to the bond issue, and approve the rate.
And an expense that would have to be made up in the future.
No, it wouldn't. Well, it's not an expense that would have to be made up because we're
It's
taking.
the
a-
fund.
But you still have to replenish the account because you're taking from it, right?
No, we have an outstanding bond that we haven't fully expended, a bond. We have money that we borrowed that we can spend. It's an old bond, and we have monies available. I suggested we take a one-time expenditure from the existing budget, about $200,000 rounded, and apply that to the bond. The bond would pay that one-time expense, never has to be repaid, and our operating expense would be reduced by $200,000, 1%, and now we're down to 2%. If I'm wrong, I need to know that, but that's how I understood that situation.
Yes, Pat?
Just to clarify, since Bruce asked, what the budget has typically contained every year is a spending category of $750,000 that we call pay-as-you-go, sort of small capital projects, capital replacements, fire hydrants, meters, things like that. To get even to the 2.9%, we reduced the 750 to around 400. What you're talking about is reducing it more, but when Rocco says the fund is to be replenished, it's not the bonds that have to be replenished, but it's that $750,000 spending level in the operating budget that then has to be built back into the rates in the future if we want to fund it at that level. So that's my clarification.
Something we worked a long time to fund.
Oh, something I proposed.
Is there, yes, you did,
Right.
as I recall. Any further discussion, or can we at least see where we're at with a vote? All those in favor of the 2.9%?
Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Seven, isn't it?
Am I missing something? Get them up high so we can see. 1, 2, 6, 7. And those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And with that, our rate increase has passed. Thank you all very much. And we're moving on. Resolution, water charges on county and city-owned 1 to 4 residential structures. Well, I'm gonna do all three of these, like one right after the other. We do this every single year. You can see 5, 6, and 7, resolution, water charges on county and city-owned commercial properties, resolutions, water charges on county and city-owned vacant lots. Who's gonna just quickly tell us what we're doing? Yes,
These are resolutions we do every year to help municipalities put properties back on the tax rolls that have been taken through foreclosure and seized by the municipality, be it the city, the county, or village, et cetera. And what we've done in order to facilitate that is to, in such cases, when they're ready, when they find a buyer, if there is a back water bill, then we remove those charges to make it easier for that municipality to place that property back into private hands. And the thought is that if there's $1,500 on a back water charge, we'd rather have them put that money into the property and fix it up and become a useful customer and taxpayer, rather than having that money spent on a water bill that may have been sitting out there for 4 or 5 years prior to the foreclosure. And so we have 3 categories. Every year I give you a rundown of the activity under these 3. This past year it's been $17,768 total under all 3. We've shifted some duties around in our accounting department, so I don't have a specific breakdown under each resolution, but typically about 2/3 of that falls under the first resolution, which is 1 to 4 family residential units. The bulk of the rest is on vacant lots. We rarely get some activity on the commercial ones, but $17,768 is pretty much on par with an average year's activities. Last year it was a little bit less, but in some years it's been a little bit higher. And I think that in most cases it's a successful program in helping municipalities remarket these properties.
Do we ever get any money back from the county or the city?
Only in such cases under the third one when there's a prorated amount and the sale price is above a certain amount.
No, I
then-
understand that, but I mean, do we ever?
Oh,
Have we ever?
Have we ever? I should say it that way.
none of the ones we waive. When we don't waive it, we do get it when the tax bills get paid. And we typically go down in the city and go through their books and figure out how much is owed on back taxes for water bills. No, we do. We get paid back. If the charges aren't waived and they remain, they've been levied to the taxes. When the taxes are paid, the water portion is remitted to us. Yeah.
Just a question with the quote-unquote, if it's in the OD, it must be true. The advertised surplus of the Urban Renewal Agency, they said excess of what, $400,000 that they're
I don't
sitting
remember the
on?
number. I don't remember what that number was.
Any chance, any share, any conversations going on about stuff that we have waived and given up to get some of that back?
We haven't had that conversation, and until that article appeared, I didn't really know how much they were actually making on the sale of those properties, but the agreement was up front, based on these waivers, that once the city forecloses and they won't have a buyer for a house, if there's a back water bill and there's a buyer ready to put it back on the tax rolls, we then waive the back charges at that time. So the quick answer to your question is no, we haven't had that discussion with them.
Any other questions for Pat regarding these three resolutions? Is there a motion to approve the three resolutions as presented?
I'll make,
Yeah, Betty, seconds that. Any further discussion regarding these? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. The next item is approval of the quarterly investment statement, third quarter, ending December 31. This is something we do every quarter. Jim?
Yeah.
Where is that one on here?
I think it's in the
Miscellaneous.
miscellaneous section.
Oh, gotcha.
Under public authorities law, we're required to provide you a statement of investments on a quarterly basis. These are primarily the cash that is put into trust. They're with our trustee, Bank of New York. They're invested in various investment vehicles, and you have a summary there. We're required to show you income to date and expenses to date. This is for the third quarter ending December 31st. I think it's, yeah, flip the page too to see the back of it. So for December 31st, there's about 18.4 million that's invested. We've earned to date 177,000. We have about 9,500 in fees.
Anything else on this, Jim?
Nope.
Any questions for Jim regarding this? Is there a motion to approve the third quarter investment statement? Bruce, second? Frank? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Anything on finance, Jim?
You have, I believe, 3 months of reports, since we didn't meet the last couple months. You have December, January, and February. One of the large items, or significant items that you should probably be aware of is, back in December, we had reduction in consumption that accumulated to about 21 million cubic feet. Fortunately, we've had a recovery over the last couple of months. We're down to 16 million. We do about 480 million cubic feet per year. And so we've dropped down, as of December, 20 million cubic feet below that. We've recovered 4 or 5 million, so we're on the upswing. So it's not as bad as we first had reported back in December or in November, as it kept on going down, 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 so we've actually recovered.
Are we recovering on actual usage that's billed, Jim? Or, I know we've had a god-awful number of water leaks this winter.
We're back on track with billing on it, so the last several months, we've been consistent with the prior year. But since we went down 20 million, we actually came back up to 16 million, so we're still at 16 million cubic feet below what we did last year.
Do we have any clues as to why the water usage varies like that? I mean, that's 4 million cubic feet.
Right, we have, I think on each one of these reports, or at least back in December, we were reporting individually to show those significant decreases. And, but we have noticed that all users are using less. A lot of it has to do with the weather, but at least we've been tracking the large decreases. And there's been some that have increased their usage, so it's back and forth, but it's pretty significant reduction. And it's just happening partly because of the weather and all those things that are occurring.
How about other water systems in the Northeast, like Syracuse, Onondaga,
Very
Buffalo?
similar.
Very
Very
similar.
similar, yes. Yep.
I know that many, a little bit off the subject, but many of these systems in the Northeast have suffered from water main breaks. I was in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. They had a big article in the paper. Their main breaks and their budget for fixing was 70% over what it was the previous year. I saw Rochester had similar stuff. I think Syracuse has had this stuff. I'm
Right.
sure we must be.
We're actually reviewing that right now. As part of our budget that you've approved, we're actually going back and looking at, do we have enough money there to take care of all those breaks that have occurred in the last couple of months? We think we do, but, you know, we have to continue to watch that, even going into March here. We've had a significant number that occurred in December, January,
It looks like when we end the fiscal year at the end of the month, overtime in the maintenance department is going to end up right about where we budgeted. We may come in slightly under budget with a small surplus in the overtime line. January, Dick, you and I were just talking about this, was kind of on par. February was ahead of what we typically see in February. March, we're on a pace that looks like, you know, a typical March. February was a big month. We had more breaks than normal, and it was a cold weather.
So, notwithstanding the fact that we're down 16 million cubic feet or cubic feet,
Yes.
what's the dollar value of that in terms of budget to actual?
We're still seeing that we're below budget of about 3 to 4%. So,
Is that 3 or 4% of the?
a budgeted revenue, So, we're seeing some recovery in cash and billings, like I mentioned. Our receivables are consistent with this time last year, so we're okay there. We're billing consistent to what we did last year in the last couple months, but that erosion that occurred over the first 9 months, we're not gonna recover from that. And we budgeted that way. We budgeted to be down 2% or so. So at least there's a cushion there. And hopefully we'll continue to recover, and we have a dry summer, things could be different. And that's what occurred 2 years ago. We actually recovered from the reduction.
We're all hoping for a dry summer. And sunny.
Let's have some sun.
Anything else for Jim? Thank you, Jim. Executive Director's Report?
I just have a quick update. A little while back, as you know, we received a grant from the state under the local government efficiency studies to do a consolidation study looking at the western side of the county for water supply for that area. 3 water suppliers, us, Rome, and Oneida, are involved, and 3 towns that are users, Vernon, Verona, and Sherrill. And the amount of the grant was awarded this year for us for $112,500. We are the lead agency, which is why I'm bringing it up now. The money's going to flow through us, and we will, disperse the charges among the other parties evenly. But the RFP to hire the consultants, which is what's going to happen with this money to do the study, will be let by us, and it will be awarded by us. The draft RFP is pretty much complete, and it's going to be sent to the other 5 parties within the consortium for a quick review, and will probably be put out to the consultants sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We will not have an award recommendation in time for our April meeting, but very likely for the May meeting, it'll come back to this board for approval to hire a consultant or perhaps a team of consultants to do the study to look at the needs of the western side of the county and what the best way to optimize water resources out there will be. So I just wanted to alert you that it is still in progress. We're moving ahead. Just today, I received, in fact, the executed contract from the state via email. Just came back this afternoon, and the RFP will be going out very shortly, so we're moving ahead on that. Other than that, we will have something for you to look at probably in the next 2 to 3 months, or maybe sooner, I don't know, based on the corrosion control.
It's probably
June, okay. Yeah, we're looking at maybe changing the way that we control biofilm and disinfection byproducts in the mains, and we'll give you a full update and a full presentation on that when it's ready to go. Unless there's any questions?
The town permits,
Oh, thank you. At this point, we are realistically expecting the four-town permit sometime probably mid-April, second or third week in April. To our knowledge, the DEC has not scheduled a public hearing, and as far as we can see right now, it looks like there will not be a public hearing. The written comments that were received fell into several categories, but a lot of them said the same thing, and I think the DEC feels that all those issues have been already addressed and adequately answered, and if there was any sort of a legislative hearing, essentially what we'd be hearing are the same comments verbally that have been submitted in writing. I believe the DEC probably is comfortable at this point. I can't speak for them. We haven't been told this officially, but we're not anticipating a hearing at this point, and we do expect a permit that we understand is being written right now to be ready for release sometime in the next 30 to 45 days. So we're looking at the middle of
we're
April.
progressing after a year and a quarter.
Yep.
I mean, this has been going on for a long time. I just wonder why it keeps taking so much longer each time.
Every time they asked for information and we sent it in, they asked us for more information.
You're still going on?
And then, no, it's, the application was deemed complete, and then we put an advertisement, we were told by DEC to put an advertisement in the paper announcing that it was complete. That happened December 19th, I think was the date. We put it in the paper that it was deemed complete, and then it opened up a public comment period. There was a little technical snafu in the public comment period on the timing of it, so they ended up having to extend it for 2 weeks, which is why the permit writing schedule has slid by a corresponding amount just because of the close of the public comment. The last thing that has to happen is that both we and DEC will be responding to the written comments that were received, and Dick and I are going to be meeting with DEC in the next day or two to get all those comments responded and sent back, and that'll happen concurrently with the drafting of the permit. So we should be on track, barring any sort of unexpected surprise, for a permit to hopefully be released, as I say, mid to late April. So a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
Now, finding funding for folks like Schuyler and Kirkland and other communities is obviously the next challenge. The permit doesn't mean anything happens automatically.
No, I understand. You had funding previously before.
$850,000.
That's right.
All down the
and,
drain.
And I think we had
It was grant money.
offered, we had matched something in there to help that
Yeah.
move along, so you got the money.
And theirs was a
Yes,
federal
50K.
grant, it wasn't even a loan.
Yeah.
But they had to give it back, so.
And Deerfield's depending on us to get
Yes,
our
we are.
act together before
Yep.
they can
Yeah,
conclude.
so, step
And,
one, we get the permit.
Our lawyers are following the timeframes. DEC now
Yes.
has their own obligations under the law as
They
far as
do.
completing this permit.
Yes,
We will follow it to the day.
yes.
Anything else for Pat?
How about the automatic meter reading?
Oh,
Maybe you've told a lot of people about it, I missed it.
It's progressing. We have at this point, Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have 12 towers now functioning. Does that sound right to you? Or 10 or 11 electronic collectors that are up and running and listening. And we are continuing to go house to house, building to building, converting either the entire meter with a modem or newer meters that have a touchpad, we're changing the touchpad to a outside remoted modem. And we're up above 6,000, closer to 7,000, I guess, at this point, that are active and being received every day by our collectors. We are building off of those as we get them and continuing to move through the system. So we're looking at, I'm sorry.
End date projection?
A lot of it's going to just depend on our own labor and the scheduling appointments to get into some of these houses. Realistically, we're probably looking at another 18 to 22 months for final completion. Could be a little bit longer. One option was to bid it out. That would have driven the cost up quite a bit. So we're doing it with our own labor, and Steve Gassner's got the guys at the meter installation shop doing a great job. In some cases they're doing 7, 8, 10 a day, depending on if they have to get inside or not. Individually, per person, I mean. So they're moving along pretty well, and I expect, a year from now, we're probably gonna have more like 20,000 of them up and operating or more.
Great.
So, you know, we're almost, you know, turning the corner on it. But it's gonna be probably in total, a little less than 3 years for full implementation.
Has the cold weather affected anything that you have installed?
Well, we had a little bit of problem with some of the collectors that are solar driven. They weren't evacuating the snow off them the way we had thought, and we were losing some power. So the company that is supplying all that Neptune meters has stepped up. In some cases, they are paying for National Grid to run poles and electricity to replace the solar ones with full AC powered ones at their cost. We'll pay the electric bills moving forward, but they're really minimal. But as far as installation costs, Neptune's covering that. And so you know, that's why we're, I think, a little behind on some of the collectors, because two of the solar ones weren't working the way we thought they were going to, and they're being replaced with AC powered ones. But you know, they're standing by their word, and they're fixing it for us.
Anything else for Pat? Then we'll move right over to the old business of the shared service agreement with the town of Westmoreland for meter reading and billing, something we discussed 2 months ago. And in your packet, you've got that agreement. Are you taking us through that, Pat, or is somebody else?
This is very similar to what we did in the village of Bridgewater, down to the southern part of the county. The town of Westmoreland operates the Tyndall Manor home area, and they have someone retiring that used to read their meters and produce their bills. They'd rather not replace that person. They've asked us to help out under a shared service agreement. And as the situation turned out to be favorable, we can hear those meters from our closest tower, our AMI tower. And so they will be paying us to go in and change those meters with the same equipment that we're putting in ours, the Neptune meters with the modems outside. So it's an additional fee for them to actually pay for us to do those installations. There's roughly 150 of them. It won't take probably more than a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on scheduling appointments. But then they will be read by our towers. We will produce their bills and send them out. And then when the monies are received, it'll be sent to their account, just as we do at Bridgewater. It's nearly identical to the Bridgewater contract in every way. Printing for the bills under their logo and letterhead and postage is extra paid by them. And essentially, they'll just be paying us to collect the readings and generate the bills at whatever rate schedule they send over for us. So just another way to help a nearby town out with.
Is it going to be all of their accounts?
It's just going to be the Tyndall district at this point. They do operate a separate water district that's run with the community well system. That will continue to be billed by them and run completely separate from us. At some point in the future, perhaps that might change, but that's not part of this agreement right now.
And you're assuming they're going to do quarterly?
I believe they're going to go to quarterly. They were billing twice a year. I think their desire is to do quarterly billing at this point.
This is sort of related, but not, because is there any part of the district that we could pilot a monthly billing?
Within our district, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. You know, I mean, I think once we have areas that are totally saturated and routes that are 100% converted, which we do at this point, yeah, we'll have the ability to do that very easily, I would think.
I'm just wondering if, I know we have a couple of years before full implementation,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the discussions that we've had is going monthly billing, and I'm just
Right.
wondering how that affects payments, online payments versus cash payments,
Right.
cash flow, and if we had a live experiment in some area,
Right.
maybe with several hundred accounts through the automated
Sure.
meter reading, sometime in the next year,
Yeah,
we'd
I
get
think
some-
in-house at the staff level, we've always thought that conversion to monthly billing would be something that could be phased. Didn't have to happen all at once. We do have to do a cost study, particularly since we're switching banking
Yeah.
systems right now, and the charges are changing a little bit for various kinds of payment formats. We would have to look at that and see how we do that.
Anything else for Pat?
I have a question. Are
Yes, sir.
all these meters 100% readable from out in Westmoreland, the AMI?
We went out and did tests. We took a tester to those locations. It appears they will be, but they're not installed yet. So, we really will know once they're up and running. But we think that we're getting strong coverage area. And if there's individual problems, depending on the nature of it, the modem may need to be relocated to the other side of the house. But generally speaking, we're not expecting to encounter any kind of difficulty like that.
But if there isn't, we're gonna have to send a guy out there to read it.
I think the chances of that are almost non-existent at this point. There's a higher powered modem that we would get in its place that could be used, but we don't think we're gonna even need any of those.
The $2 per customer billed, that's gonna cover all our costs?
Yeah, and then some. Our cost actually is substantially lower than that. It's because we're gonna get readings every day. It's just a matter of someone sitting at a console, just clicking, one button to generate the bill off the reads that came in that night. And, then they just run them through the printer, which will take about 5 minutes. And then they go right through the sealer and out in the mail. So it's probably 15 minutes of work for somebody, once a quarter. I would expect at that point, really, we're talking about an hour, maybe 2 hours labor tops in the course of an entire year. So there's almost nothing that we need to do to produce those bills. And as I said, the printing and the postage, they're going to pay separately from that anyway.
If there's any problems with the meters, we're responsible for fixing them, or
No,
they are?
there. Or they can pay us to do it.
Okay.
Anything else for Pat?
That's it.
Thank you. Any new business?
We have to approve?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Someone care to make a motion for the shared service agreement with the town of Westmoreland for meter reading and billing?
I'll move it.
Yes, Vince, second. Bruce? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Now, any new business? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.